Good morning. It is 8:07. Welcome on this Wednesday. It is debate day here at News Talk 107.9, and in about a half an hour, we are going to shift gears. We have Rod Furniss and Karey Hanks scheduled to join us, and we're going to spend well over an hour hashing through different salient, important issues to hopefully to you. And what I'm finding is that every race has its own unique issues, and every race shares some bigger, broader issues as well. So if you listened to our debate last week with Aaron Bingham and Brian McKellar, we don't have any identical questions, but we do have some crossover issues that we'll address. And we're looking forward to that. This is one that I think is heating up. I believe Karey Hanks, she lost 2 years ago, but only by a couple of hundred votes. It was not a big, overwhelming, decisive win for Rod Furniss. And so who knows? It could go either way. And so we'll ask them. But we've added a little bit of a plot twist to the don't be afraid, especially if you're Rod or Karey or you're driving in. I got on ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, what is the biggest gotcha question you would ask each of these candidates? So we are likely going to throw in, it won't be the first question we ask, but if there's time, and I think there will be, we are going to ask, they each got the same prompt, and we're going to ask each of them what I thought they were pretty good gotcha questions, but we're not going to indicate exactly what they are. So watch for that. Also, they'll each have an opportunity to ask the other a question, which I find is an interesting part of the debate. And, of course, you can always text in your questions as well. In fact, go ahead and do that right now if you'd like to 208-542-1079. Now, we do have a few things that we need to talk about. I've been sort of kind of shocked, really, at the announcement by the interim Attorney General Todd Blanche about the Southern Poverty Law Center. And I've never been a fan of the Southern Poverty Law Center. They kind of have prided themselves on rooting out racism in America, which, of course, is a worthy cause on the surface. But I always thought they were very, very partisan about it. It seemed like they always fell on the left side of the issue, supported Democrats, whatever, and pretty soon it's sort of like anything else that the left does. We have, on the surface, a good intention. But behind that surface good intention is an ulterior motive, which is to spread progressivism across the fruited plain and become a bigger part of everyday American life. And this has turned out to be exactly the case here if these allegations are true. Apparently, they crafted and through a number of fake shell companies, they funneled money and paid racist organizations like the KKK to do racist things. Think about that for a moment. And I propose a name change, the Smollett Poverty Law Center, because that's exactly, without the shell companies, that's exactly what Jussie Smollett apparently tried to do. You pay somebody, let's create a fake racist episode, and then we can get lots of national attention for it, and then we can use that as a premise to win elections, to raise money, to do all sorts of... You have to understand something. In today's media environment, if you... I cannot tell you how lucrative a racist moment can become. Racism can be incredibly lucrative, especially to the left. And I'm sure in their mind, if you were to sit down and talk, now they're probably not talking to anybody right now because their lawyers have put duct tape over their mouth, but they would probably say, yeah, but racism is a real thing. We are just accelerating our progress to alleviate the problem. Kind of like, remember the bloody glove with O.J. Simpson. Well, we know he's guilty. We just want to make sure that we're going to manufacture a preponderance of evidence to get to a verdict he deserves anyway. That's what this is. It's the Smollett Bloody Glove Poverty Law Center. That's what it is. It's creating an artificial, at least artificially inflated problem in America. Now, I think there might be more to uncover here. It's sort of like when two seemingly separate timelines later in the movie meet up, and they're like, what do these two things have to do with each other? And then you realize they're intricately connected. Another plot twist. And when we had Joe Biden, oh man, I think about those 4 years and I get twitchy. But when we had Joe Biden as the president, do you remember their Department of Justice trying to make the claim that white nationalism, white supremacy, white racism was the biggest terror threat in America today? Remember that? And we looked around going, what are you even talking about? They didn't cite specific examples of things. It was just this generic claim. And of course, the friendly mainstream media just ran with it. And I want to see the timeline of this side by side. Was this something that our federal government played along with under Biden? He probably didn't even know about it because he didn't know about much at all. But the people running the auto pen, did they know about this alleged arrangement between the Southern Poverty Law Center sending money to racist groups to manufacture racist events so they had a compelling national narrative to raise money and win elections? Look, I'll tell you something, and I'm a conservative, and I think there's natural conflict. I think politics in its nature is oppositional. We're fighting for different outcomes, and that's just natural. You have that between coworkers and family members and people, and that's just part of life. I get that. However, I think that when you look at social media and many of the fights that we've had over the culture the last few years, how many of them have been artificially inflated by nefarious people with nefarious money so that we are at each other's throats all the time because rage is lucrative. In the same way that racism is lucrative, rage also is lucrative. And this is despicable. I will tell you, the only reason I want the Southern Poverty Law Center to survive this is so I can call them the Smollett Poverty Law Center. But if that's the case, they shouldn't exist. If their people have been doing this, somebody needs to go to jail. And that organization needs to be dissolved for masquerading as something it isn't. And how toxic is that? And speaking of toxic, here's our little segue. Governor Brad Little has lost the support of the Idaho Education Association. Did you see this story? I'm sure he's devastated over this. But the IEA membership voted no confidence. Now, I don't know. Do we know what the final tally was? Does everybody get to vote, or is it just the board? The Idaho Education Association has issued a vote of no confidence in Governor Brad Little after he signed into law a bill that prevents teachers' unions from using any taxpayers' resources to conduct union activities. Mike Journey is the IEA spokesperson. He said, it's going to make the work of the union more difficult, and that's its intent. Okay. Somebody help me understand. The snark is real close to the surface this morning here, but I want to ask, you know what? Private organization, let's say you own a Burger King franchise. And I went to you and I said, hey, I got a pretty good deal for you. Federal government, or the state government in this case, is actually going to pay your employees 2 days a week. How do you like that deal? Would you take it? I mean, you don't have to pay them because they'll be on taxpayer dime, but you can use them to flip burgers. You can use them to fry French fries. You can use them to sweep up the lobby or the floor in your I mean, you can use these employees as you wish, but the state's paying them to do it. Would you go for that? Any employer would absolutely go for that. So if you're the union and you are getting people working for you, but they're doing it on taxpayer-funded time, at best, that is a luxury. But you have come to feel entitled to that arrangement. It's a garbage arrangement. And IEA, you are throwing the most childlike, unseemly, bad look tantrum that I can imagine, just because the taxpayers, most of us unknowingly, have been paying teachers to do your crap for years, doesn't mean you get to continue with that arrangement. And just because there are phone systems and email systems that we, the taxpayers, pay for, but you get to utilize to make your job as part of the union easier, doesn't mean that you're entitled to it. I have always thought, and I don't, it was early on. Like, I've been following politics a long time. I don't know if I got too deep into the politics around education too much, but when I was in my mid-20s, and I was probably 24 when I started doing talk radio. And I knew I wasn't a fan of the IEA. I didn't like their politics. I didn't like how they functioned. It was just kind of like, we're wired different. We're just different people. I don't dislike you, but we're different. And over time, you begin to see these patterns. And the patterns that you notice are that whatever you give them, it's not enough. Just no. And I'm not just talking about appropriations for K through 12. I'm talking about whatever carve out you've made for them in the law, whatever it is. And this is how narcissists function. They make you feel like whatever you've done is just, at best, a little bit inadequate, like you could have done better. There's more. But most of the time, it's worse than that. Most of the time, they make you feel like a piece of trash because you haven't allocated enough to their preferred budget. You haven't. And I will tell you, and I know this kind of bugs our audience once in a while. I actually like Governor Brad Little. I think overall, other than a couple of, black eyes like the water fiasco in 24, that was 24, right? Anyway, and COVID, and those are a couple of big black eyes. I think in general, he's been a pretty solid governor. He's cut back on regulation. I do think that he's kind of a budget hawk. I think that he doesn't like to spend a lot of money, but I think what he saw was Idaho is losing its competitive edge in education, so we've got to get these teachers' salaries up, or we're just going to see teacher churn. They're going to come here and teach for 2 or 3 years, and then they're going to be like, I got to go to Wyoming, or I've got to go to another state. So he worked really hard and spent a lot of political capital with whatever conservative base he had to get more money to the teachers. And I'm saying this agnostically. We're not examining whether it was right or wrong or good or bad. I'm saying that in his relationship with the teachers, he has been very, very good to them. And over the long haul, he has been an advocate for K through 12 and for public education. But I think 2 or 3 years ago, he may have had the same realization I began to have many years ago. It will never be enough, and they will never be satisfied. Let me just ask you a question. Have you ever heard anybody entrenched in public education saying, I'm really grateful for what the legislature appropriated this year, even when there's been significant increases? No, you don't hear that because it's never enough. That's like the rule that they're wired with. This is how I gain my emotional advantage over you. I treat you like you never quite do enough for me. Well, we don't care anymore. And that's the beauty of it. We don't give a crap. In fact, the fact that you whine about every little thing, we create House Bill 93. We say, look, parents, if you want, you go ahead and you take your kid out of K through 12, because we believe that parents, middle-class parents should not be denied the opportunity to give their kid a private education. They have lost badly in recent years, and I will tell you why. Especially the House Bill 93 was devastating to them. Even though Julie told me earlier, she said the education budget in Idaho is $2.75 billion. $2.75 billion. Guess what? House Bill 93 was $0.05 billion. K through 12 was $2.7 billion more. And their whole budget was $2.75 billion. That's how teensy tiny House Bill 93 was to them, but they lost their crapo. So they lose that battle. They get absolutely spanked and humiliated in the Supreme Court decision that came down earlier this year. It was horrifically devastating for them. But now House Bill 516, that was insult added to injury. It's just been a bad, terrible, no good set of months for the Idaho Education Association. And maybe this vote of no confidence against the governor is part of that. Is they're still raw over their devastating loss of House Bill 93? I don't know. All I know is that when the IEA is sad, your children's prospects are better and happier. All right, it's 8:26 on News Talk 1079. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, check in briefly, and then we're going to shift. We've got a big debate. In fact, I have been watching through the window. Both Representative Rod Furniss and his challenger, former Representative Karey Hanks, are here. They're in the house, so to speak, and we'll get set up for a good old-fashioned debate coming up on News Talk 1079. All right, 8:30 now, News Talk 1079. Neil Larson, Julie Mason. And Julie, this rain that we're getting is going to be good for the humates, the step one on the lawn.
Absolutely. If you want green grass, this is the way to make it work. And April's actually kind of helping you out a little bit. We got some cold weather, so it slowed everything down. We've gotten some moisture. So don't forget to go get the 4-step lawn program, because those humates need to get into your grass. They're going to make everything start percolating and working. And that's your first step to green lawn all summer long.
And while you're there, check out their house plants. You can start getting ready to plant the vegetables as well for your garden. They've got everything that you're going to need.
Bare root trees. You need to get those right now.
Yeah, yep. All right, Town and Country Gardens south of Idaho Falls, across from the big Budweiser plant. 8:31, when we come back, we'll be in our conference room studio with Rod Furniss and Karey Hanks. It's our second debate in our legislative debate series, just minutes away on News Talk 1079.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neil and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
Local election coverage happens here. The News Talk 1079 Legislative Debate Series, moderated Mason, only on News Talk 1079.
And good morning. It is 8:38 on News Talk 1079. Neil Larson along with Julie Mason. And we welcome you to debate number 2. This morning we want to welcome into our conference center studio Representative Rod Furniss and his challenger, former Representative Karey Hanks. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We really appreciate you taking the time, being willing to come and have this debate. We're looking forward to a robust debate. I do want to let our listeners know Julie is working fastidiously to get Facebook Live going. We've had just a little bit of a hiccup, so if you're wanting to watch it on Facebook, keep trying. I believe we'll have it there soon, but we'll definitely be on the air and on our app as well. And by the way, if you want to learn more about either one of these candidates, their websites are actually their names, rodfurniss.com and kareyhanks.com, and we'll share those with you a little bit later. But for both of you, we've sent you the rules, but for our listeners' sake, we just want to go over those really quickly. You'll each have a chance to introduce yourselves for 2 minutes. Any questions that we ask, we would ask that you keep it close to 90 seconds. Julie will be a timekeeper here, and she may give you a hand signal when your time is close or it's up. And then if you reference your opponent will have 60 seconds to rebut. So that's how the back and forth will go. We also will have listener questions later on, and our listeners can ask questions by texting them to 208-542-1079. And the same rules will apply. 90 seconds to answer, 60 seconds to rebut. We also have introduced something new into this debate. If you're both willing to do it, we actually had AI generate the best gotcha question they could for each one of you.
Oh, great.
Are you all right with that?
You bet.
Okay.
Go for it.
I don't know.
You'll each get one. So I was actually impressed, and they're not terrible, but we thought it would be an interesting view on that.
Definitely.
That's if we have time. And then at the very end, prior to your closing statements, you'll each have an opportunity to direct a question to the other. Okay? All right. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and start. Okay? Rod, we'll start with you.
All right, great.
Representative, your votes on the multiple immigration enforcement bills were split this year.
Did you want me to introduce myself?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You're right. Thank you.
Let me take
you
over
should be
the
the
show
moderator.
for you.
I will tell you,
wait a second.
the last 5 minutes have been this flurry of crazy activity.
Right.
So, yeah, you know what? I'll stop talking for just a minute. Julie?
So I'll break in.
Okay.
Facebook Live is up and going. So for those who wanted it, we closed down the program. It's back going. We're good to go on Facebook Live. And everybody can take a breath now, and then we can introduce the candidates.
Okay. Well, let's do that. Go ahead. Representative Furniss, we'll give you the first introduction here for 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Most everybody knows I'm from Rigby. I grew up in Rigby. Well, I actually grew up in Manan on a ranch out there. Went to school at Rigby, graduated from BYUI in business, and then went on to ISU, graduated there in finance. Served a mission in Argentina. Got married. The lady that waited for me was awesome. She waited kind of unfaithfully. She dated other people while I was gone.
Oh.
But that's okay. She waited for me, and that was the most important. We have 5 kids, 12 grandkids, wonderful. I work in insurance, health and life insurance, and have a business on real estate on the side. But I wanted to just say the last 8 years that I've been in office has been a tremendous event for Idaho. I don't know that you know, but I just want to read a few things. We're 3rd in the nation in conservatism, 4th in the lowest tax bracket in the nation per capita. We have the 49th in the nation for spending as far as budget per capita. Education-wise, we're dead last on what we spend for students, but we're in the middle of the road on how education affects our students. There's only 4 states that have abortion laws like we have in Idaho, the heartbeat bill. And gun control, we're 4th highest ownership. But the greatest thing that's happened over the last 8 years is we have dropped the income tax rate from 7.4 down to 5.3. It was a pleasure being part of to being Idaho where it is today, and that's been the best thing.
Okay. Karey, your introduction.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm Karey Hanks. My husband and I are the parents of 7 children. We have 19 grandchildren, and 13 of whom live in our area of Idaho. So, of course, I have a vested interest in protecting and preserving the values that make Idaho the best place to live and to raise our family and your family. We've lived in Egypt Bench near St. Anthony for over 40 years and raised our family on our farm. So I have a strong agricultural background, as well as working for the Fremont School District for over 20 years. I love Idaho. And so I've been very concerned as I've watched our local politicians' voting records. While they claim to be conservative, we see the concept of conservatism very differently. I served in the Idaho House 2 terms, so I have experience and a voting record that shows I walk the walk. I scrutinize budgets and tax proposals, making tough votes to eliminate waste and unnecessary spending. I support the principles of the Idaho Republican platform, including spending restraint, individual and parental rights, and addressing our illegal immigration issues. I am responsive to constituents' issues and needs and write a Substack to share information pertaining to current issues. I am not a polished politician. I am the epitome of a citizen legislator, a servant of the people. I believe our citizens come first. By contrast, politicians in our district have established a pattern of supporting bigger government programs, big business, and sponsoring bills that grow government, including their ongoing support for Medicaid expansion and taxpayer funding of welfare benefits for illegal immigrants in Idaho. While my opponent votes in line with the special interest donors, my voting record shows my commitment to the people of District 31 and the people of Idaho. And I have been blessed with about 100 individual donors so far this campaign, from $25 to $50 and more. I think this shows that people are ready for a change. I often hear people pushing for term limits. Well, this is your perfect opportunity to term limit a 4-term politician and elect a citizen legislator on May 19th.
All right, Karey, thank you. And with that, we'll start our questions. We're going to talk about immigration. And Representative Furniss, your votes on the multiple immigration enforcement bills were split this year. While Idaho's farmers enjoy wide support from Idahoans, Idahoans may not feel the same about the powerful agriculture lobbying groups in the state. You've accepted large donations from some of the region's largest farmers, as well as the Farm Bureau PAC, Amalgamated Sugar Company PAC, Snake River Sugar Beet Growers PAC, Idaho Dairy Industry PAC, and the Idaho AGC State PAC, which has some agricultural ties. How can you assure voters that you're operating in their interests and not in the interest of those who've given you significant donations to your campaign?
Well, that's a great question. You know, each one of those PACs represent hundreds and hundreds of people on small business. And those small businesses give voice to those PACs. And we don't always listen to those PACs. They donate, and it's $1,000 that they donate. And I always make the same decision that I always make. I look at how my heart feels. I look at what my constituents see, and I do the homework on the bill. I see if it's constitutional. And those guys can donate to me. I don't always vote with them. IACI's a really good thing there. I don't always vote with IACI. I don't always vote with the dairy. And they know that. So I don't think the PAC money is influential in Idaho with $1,000. I make $25,000 a year doing this job. I'm not gonna be swayed by $1,000, and I never have been. And I vote my conscience, and I vote. I think I vote really well each time, and my voting record shows that. I serve on JFAC, and we look at those budgets really closely. None of those people have budgets on JFAC. But we look at the budgets that affect those people, and we do a good job on those budgets. We scrutinize every line in those budgets. We do the Doge on those budgets all the time, and you'll probably get to budgets, but those don't influence me. Those PAC dollars, they meet me with a campaign, but they don't influence me, and that's what you need to know.
Okay.
All right, Karey, so you do take a strong stance against illegal immigration. The immigration bills that were brought forward this legislative session didn't necessarily address all of the significant issues with immigration. So what would you have done to tighten those bills up? What would you have added or changed in those bills to ensure a strong stance on illegal immigration?
Well, I actually thought House Bill 700 and 704 were good bills. And, we do need to tighten our illegal immigration, our protecting our citizens. They should come first. I want to just tell you, a friend was telling me that there was a guy in the contractor section of Home Depot, and he said that so many of these people come in and they're paying cash, and he feels like they override. Well, they come in and the friend is getting consistently underbid by similar people, and it's so bad that he doesn't get subcontracting jobs anymore. And so part of the challenge is that it's never enough. We started that our farm workers, dairy and agriculture, they were illegal, but they were working on, like, with the H2 and all that. But it's expanded so that they're taking jobs in the construction, hospitality, all that. And Idahoan plumbers, painters, and other trades they're losing work because they're being underbid by these illegal immigrants that are in those trades, and also that the contractors can bid less because of they pay less to their workers.
Yeah. Okay, another follow-up on immigration. Representative Furniss, you're in the legislature. You did cast votes on these issues. And maybe speak to the point that Karey makes here, is that a lot of times we talk about agriculture, and these are jobs that you don't get Americans to take. That's what I hear a lot. But there are other sectors where maybe people who do have a trade here are getting underbid, and the presence of illegal labor here is costing us financially. What would you do as a lawmaker to address that issue, to make sure that if you're here and you're competing in our economy, that you're here legally?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Especially, I've ran a business. I've signed the front of the check and I've signed the back of the check. And to have key employees is really important, and to have legal employees is also very important. And Farm Bureau came out against these bills, but they said that most of their Farm Bureaus are making those people sign I-9s. They're making them verify. There's very few employers that really like to hire illegals.
Okay, so why was the E-Verify bill problematic then, if they were mostly legal?
I think one of the problems is that the documentation shows that they're legal, but E-Verify may not be up to date. It also goes down when there's a shutdown in the government. It wasn't as stable as it needed to be. But I think that most of your farmers, most of your construction guys, they try to make sure that those guys are legal as long as they can. Then what happens in about 12 months, they find out they're not legal, and they let them go. A lot of them do. But there is a solution. There is an absolute solution to this problem. We went back to Washington, D.C. We met with the delegation on water, and we talked about immigration while we were back there. We met with all the delegation. One of the solutions that we came up with, and we told them at this time, that if you'll make the H-2A program a 12-month program instead of a 9-month program, then we can look at a fiscal year. We can make that happen, and you give employers the authority to renew that visa at that time, whether they're good employees or bad employees. If they're bad, then their visa's up. They need to go back. If they're good, they can stay and work maybe another year, and maybe even have a sunset on that if you want to. But if you would give that, Idaho would become compliant overnight if we had those things. And really the solution is to if you're going to make employers responsible for illegal immigration, give them the tools to make it legal. And right now we don't have those tools. We've looked the other way for 50 years on immigration. And in the past, I think we have had a lot of illegals. But I think employers now are trying really hard to make sure there's I-9s, verifications, they're doing their job. And now we need to even give them the tool to finish that job and make it legal.
Yeah.
Karey, I got the impression you wanted to respond to that question as well.
Yes.
I will say we have about a minute and a half, so if you could make it.
So actually, I think he's referring to it's the farm Workforce Modernization Act. And I support that too. I think we need to push on our legislators at our state level to push for that. That would help a lot. Presently, federally, it's illegal for an employer to knowingly hire or continue employing authorized workers. So that ties right in with House Bill 700. That did pass the House and was put in a drawer. And as he said, employers must complete the I-9, and there are penalties for that. So it's interesting with E-Verify at the federal level. It's voluntary for most private employers, but mandatory for federal contracts. It's also interesting that the American Farm Bureau supports mandatory E-Verify for all employers and opposes providing welfare benefits to illegal aliens, which Rod actually voted against that bill to continue. So he voted to continue welfare benefits for our illegal immigrants in Idaho.
That's simply not true.
Okay, 1 minute. We'll have to adjust some things, but go ahead and rebut that
Yeah.
if you'd like.
What that bill she's talking about 2 years ago was a bill that would have said that when illegals came to the emergency room, they wouldn't be treated. And I couldn't stand for that. And there is a federal bill that says that anyone that comes to the emergency room has to be treated, whether they're illegal, whether they're aliens, whoever they are, they have to be treated. Ronald Reagan passed that bill.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take a break. I feel like there's some loose ends left with this issue, so we'll continue after this. You're listening to our debate coverage on News Talk 107.9.
An appointment for skin checks or any aesthetic service, call High Valley Dermatology today.
The border is finally being secured, and Idaho needs representatives who fought for that, and will keep the pressure on. I'm Britt Raybould, and as your voice in the Idaho House, I've supported our state police and border training missions, and I back local law enforcement partnering with federal agencies to capture and deport criminals who are here illegally. The work isn't finished. On May 19th, vote Britt Raybould in the Republican primary for District 34. We all deserve to live in safe communities. Paid for by Britt Raybould for Idaho, Ron Walker Treasurer.
The moments after a car accident are chaotic. If you're ever involved in one, tell the officer you want Majestic Towing. When you don't request Majestic Towing, the cheapest option is typically called. But you want your car in the best hands, right? And when it comes to repairing your vehicle, tell your insurance company you want Majestic Auto Body. You can trust the certified professionals at Majestic to repair your vehicle to the highest standards. They're OEM certified by most manufacturers. They conduct thorough inspections, they never cut corners, and they always put in the time to fix your vehicle right. When you don't request Majestic Auto Body, your insurance company will use the cheapest option, placing your vehicle in the hands of a shop whose goal is to get it in and out as quickly as possible so they can move on to the next. Remember, towing and auto body shops are not created equal. For towing your car after an accident and for an honest, thorough, manufacturer-approved repair, request Majestic Auto Body.
All right, coming up on 8:59 on News Talk 107.9, we're here with Representative Rod Furniss, his challenger, former Representative Karey Hanks. We'll take a break for the news, and we'll be back. We'll continue our debate just minutes ahead.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. We will keep in mind and remember that you and I have the ability and the dignity and the right to make our own decisions and determine our own destiny.
This hour of the Neil Larson Show is brought to you by Crystal Water. The difference is clear with Crystal Water.
Your world, your country, your community, and you. Let's talk about it now on The Neil Larson Show with co-host Julie Mason. Local election coverage happens here. The News Talk 1079 Legislative Debate Series, moderated by Neil Larson and Julie Mason, only on News Talk 1079.
And we welcome you back to our conference room studio here at Sandhill Media. Neil Larson and Julie Mason. And we're in the midst of our second legislative debate between Representative Rod Furniss and former Representative Karey Hanks. This is a rematch. I think this is the third or fourth campaign you guys have faced each other. So you're well known to each other, and we appreciate you making some time here this morning. We said there were some loose ends on the education issue.
Immigration.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Yes. What did I just say?
Education.
Education.
Okay. We're here for you.
Education's next. So a little preview there. But let's tie up those loose ends. I want to give each of you 1 minute to I guess address and wrap up immigration so we can move on to something else.
Thank you. So House Bill 135 that passed last year is actually does not include emergency visits. It's non-emergency welfare benefits, to make that clear. I also wanted to say that Rod answered somebody on why he voted against House Bill 704, and he said, "Thanks for asking. Many of our ag partners were not in favor. Construction and hospitality were also against it. I would like to see a federal answer before we set state policy." So he mentioned nothing about what the constituents want. And, it involves safety, for one thing, that there's housing, there's health care issues. But for me, the big thing is crime. And I think many of us remember the little Maura Garrity that was hit and killed by an illegal alien in Boise. He actually had an Oregon license. So, he wasn't in Oregon, he was here, and he hit and killed that girl. And, we hear things all the time on the news about crime. So we need to protect our citizens. They should come first.
Rod, 1 minute.
Yeah, not only did I say ag, dairy, construction, hospitality, the Sheriff's Association were against this bill. The city chiefs were against this bill. The Idaho State Police were against these bills. And the reason is because the bills said they had to do certain things. And one thing that's really important in the legislature is called a fiscal note. When you write a bill, you need to know how much that bill costs. And you need to know what the monetary implications are for that bill. And there's been many bills that have been great bills that have failed because the legislator forgot to put what the fiscal note should be. Well, this would have been an unfunded mandate on the sheriffs, police, and state police to do the requirements that were in these bills. When you have an unfunded mandate like that, that's a direct increase in property tax. So what my opponent is saying is she'd like you to raise your income, your property tax. So that's exactly what would have happened here.
Okay, I'm sure there's more.
There sure is.
We should move on to education.
I have 3 follow-up questions. We could spend the whole next hour on immigration. Yeah.
We have more topics than we have time here today. So let's move to education. Representative Furniss, you voted no on House Bill 93 last year, against the majority in your party and against the overwhelming vote in the House. Your opposition to it, based on quotes that were attributed to you in the media, was based on concerns over a lack of government accountability. If accountability is your concern, would you champion a similar level of scrutiny for the governor's launch program, ensuring recipients stay in school, do well in their program, and remain in Idaho?
Yeah, and the launch program does that.
It requires them to remain in Idaho?
It requires them to work in Idaho. It requires them to stay here. I think it's for 2 years. I need to double check that. But there is a requirement for them to work in Idaho.
Do they have to pay the money back? Like, what is the teeth behind that?
Yeah, and they do. If they don't do that, they have to pay the money back. And they have some teeth in the launch program. But I like your idea on 93. Let's talk about 93 for a second. 93, I didn't vote for it. But it passed the House, passed the Senate, the governor signed it. So I'm not as good as Senator Lant, where he says he embraces 93 now. Well, I'm not I can't quite hug it, okay? But I do accept that it's law. I do accept that is the law of the land. Would I like to see some sideboards put on that? Absolutely. I like to see, and I'm also not opposed to having an increase if I understand where the money's going, how it's spent, and how the accountability would be. Right now, we just don't have that. We don't have any feedback. I also am opposed to how it's funded. It comes out of the budget. It comes out of revenue before it hits a budget. I would like to see that 93 dovetail under the Department of Education so that I can monitor the dollars, I can see where they're spent, and if there's an overall cut like we had this year, we couldn't touch 93 because that money comes out before we do the revenue number. I serve on Economic Outlook and Revenue Assessment Committee. We choose a number for the budget on what revenue should be. That number does not include the cost of the $50 million for 93 because it comes out before. I would like to see that be more accountable for that. But I'm all in favor of 93. I'm not against school choice. I'm okay with homeschool. I'm okay with charters. I'm okay with the public education plan. But I'd like to see some accountability, and I want to see how it's funded.
Okay. Did you want to follow up today?
Well, I'm assuming you have a question for me about education.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I just don't know if we're finished with 93, so let's talk about that for just a second. You weren't in the legislature, but you were there, I believe, when they were flirting with other forms of this kind of a law.
Absolutely.
So were you satisfied with the idea that it would be a tax? A tax credit instead of something like a voucher. I mean, voucher is kind of a dirty word in Idaho now. So what is this the version of a parent choice bill that you wanted to see?
Absolutely. I'm very happy that House Bill 93 passed. I would have voted for it. And I also want to let our listeners know I did homeschool 5 of our children for at least 1 year. And we also had one of our children in private school. So I believe that the money should follow the student, and also that not all children fit in that public school model. I actually work for Fremont School District, so I interact with teachers. I've been a substitute teacher. I support public education, and I believe in a variety for our kids, because parents know what's best.
Okay. Do you believe, Karey, that House Bill 93 goes far enough, or should there be items added to it? Does it reach the scope that you'd like to see, other than it's $50 million, which is incredibly modest compared to the overall budget? But functionally, would you like to see it do more?
Well, I think we need to. In a way, it's a pilot program. So I'd like to see how it works, but all indications are there were 13,000 applications or something. There was a lot of interest in that, and compared. I guess I want to follow up on the launch program. My understanding is the students when they graduate are not required to stay in Idaho. That's a sideboard that absolutely needs to be on there. I'm not a big supporter of launch. They're dealing with the defaults now. There's in 2025 there's over $500,000 in defaults. So they've got to work on that now. And to me, it's the reason why it's a concern is it's tax money handouts to politically connected businesses, and so the workforce council that decides where that money goes, that's a concern.
Yeah.
All right, Rod, let's continue with education a little bit. You sit on the JFAC committee.
Can I just say something?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Quick, sorry. There's been about 497 kids in our district that have taken advantage of launch. It's an $8,000 scholarship. They pay 20%. The state pays up to $8,000 on the other end. I taught some kids. I went to it was a Spanish event at ISU. We went through, and I had to speak Spanish to some of them. It was a Spanish event, and you should have seen their eyes glow when I told them that this field and this field and this field were covered by launch. They had no knowledge of lunch. When these seniors find out what they can do, it gives them hope that they can go on. And we're seeing our go-on rate go on. But one of the biggest problems we have with launch right now is that we've done a really good job of taking the seniors and saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we've done a really terrible job of the community colleges being able to get those kids into community college. So we have a bottleneck right there. I'm going to work on that this year. We need to work on making sure that bottleneck opens up so that we can really get these trades going. We have limits on welders and HVAC and all those things in our community colleges now, and they're swamped, but we haven't increased the capacity. And so we need to do that with launch.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, you sat on the JFAC committee, did a ton of determining. It was an arduous task this year because of the budget cuts. However, education was basically held up to a standard of no cuts at all. Were you supportive of that? Were you okay with not having any cuts within the education budget?
Actually, education did get cut. We have fewer students that are coming in the roles. We actually did cut education by $22 million this year across the board. And that's a tough cut. When you cut those because the enrollments are down, they have a lot of fixed costs. When you get into their budgets, they have buildings and asphalt and light bills and buses and things like that they have to buy, whether they have 20 less students or they have 20 more students. So we really need to work on the funding formula to make sure that happens. We didn't give teachers raises this year. We didn't give state employees raises. Some of the teachers did take a pay cut because their insurance rates went up. If they weren't on the state employee plan, which I put together a long time ago, if they weren't on that plan, then a lot of teachers did take a pay cut because they didn't get an increase in wage. So we made some hard decisions in JFAC. I wish I could put you in the room with us when we're in the subgroups, because in those subgroups, we'll take on, there'll be 6 of us in there. We're nose to nose sometimes on different line items in those budgets. And we all write budgets. We are budget writers. We come out, and if we don't agree in those subgroups, I can write a budget, he can write a budget, she can write a budget, and we'll see which budget comes out on the floor and which budget is voted in by the committee. We don't always agree. You'll see several times in JFAC where we'll have 3 budgets, and that's because we couldn't agree in the subgroups. But I feel like we did a good job on this year's budget. We only had $62 million at the end of the day on the bottom line. We were going to have a lot more, but we did some rescissions. We put back some things that we had cut too much. And we put back $131 million into that. So
I want to ask a follow-up.
I kind of got off track.
Sorry. No, it's okay. That's fine. I want to do a follow-up. I remember a story from a few months ago that quite a number of school districts across the state of Idaho, I don't know which and how much for each, but a lot of districts have put money away to the tune of, I think, $800 million, something along those lines, $700 to $800 million. How does that square with those who are advocates for K through 12 and public education, with their cry for poverty and this demand to hold them harmless when it comes to budget deliberations? Why, when they have that in the bank, they still get a sweetheart deal when budgeting time comes around? Yeah,
you've hit on a nerve for me, because our district is so rural. We don't have the excess cash that they have in Ada and some of those larger school districts. In fact, some of those larger school districts are, I'm an insurance agent, so I know that some of them are self-funded, and they have a huge amount of cash in those self-funded health insurance plans even. And that's not even counted in that amount.
Yeah.
And cash is, you can spread that out however you want in cash. So it's fungible, is the word I'm looking for. So in our district, though, we don't have that issue. And in fact, we need to look at those school districts when we get to and we ran a resolution to look at these formulas for next year. When we look at those formulas, we've got to take into consideration these smaller school districts, and we got to make sure they have enough cash, and we've got to put a base there for them. And we need to look at those districts with super amounts of cash. The problem is that those school districts with a lot of cash, they passed a supplemental, And their voters have said, you know what, we're okay with you taxing us, and we're okay with you hoarding cash. And that's kind of where we're at. So I don't want to take that vote away, but the rural districts where I represent, we need to make sure that formula works good.
You are in a rural district, too. You work for the school district. What is your view as an employee of the school district? Do you feel like they could have handled a budget cut? Do you feel like the budget for the schools was appropriate? Just give us your idea of education budgets.
Sure. So it's interesting that one of my ads is on education, and I talk about administration and bureaucracy that are involved, and I do support our teachers. And I've gotten actually contacts from teachers and others that work in our Fremont district, and he was talking, or she was talking about an administration challenge that they have, and that's what happens is we're administration heavy, and it seems like whenever there's a cut that the teachers are the first ones cut, and I don't agree with that. But it's kind of a school board and superintendent issue as well, but we can sure support them. You know, my husband and I were going to Arizona a couple months ago. We were in the airport, and an acquaintance came up and said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Well, she was among at least 4 people. I didn't keep real close track of how many there were, but she was heading to Arizona for her school district. They were going to go down there and have this conference or something. That had to have been at least $1,000 a piece. I don't know how many days they were staying or anything, but there's things like that. We got Zoom meetings now we can do. We don't have to pay for people to travel somewhere else. Our education staff. So I think there are cuts that can be made. The school districts choose their priorities.
Okay. You look like you wanted 10 seconds? Real quick, really fast. We got to take
she says she's for teachers, but in House Bill 634, she voted against teacher salaries in the career ladder.
Okay. All right. You want 10 seconds, Karey?
Yeah. I'm sure there was an issue with that. I've paid for lots. I've voted for lots of teacher pay increases.
Okay. All right. We'll be back on News Talk 107.9.
Local election coverage happens here. The News Talk 107.9 Legislative Debate Series, moderated by Neil Larson and Julie Mason, only on News Talk 107.9.
A warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year long. And installation? It's done by our very own certified in-house crews. That's why Idaho homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Call 208-852-8685. For over 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Idaho trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products. Built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 208-852-8685 for that $2,500 off, or visit advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
Now is the season full of dances, graduations, and weddings. Look and feel your best with the help from board-certified dermatologist and Mohs surgeon Dr. Dan Marshall, along with Cameron French, Dave Batt, and Travis Gilbert. The Alpine Dermatology team specializes in treating acne, rashes, hair loss, and many other conditions that can affect your confidence on your big day. Alpine Dermatology also offers free daily skincare screenings in Rexburg, Idaho Falls, Driggs, and Arco. Visit alpinedermclinic.com to learn more.
Stand Up for Idaho's April 22nd Town Hall will be a moderated forum featuring Democrat candidates running for Idaho governor. 4 candidates have filed for the Democratic nomination for Idaho governor in the May 19th, 2026 primary. They are Maxine Durant, Jill C. Kirkham, Terry Pickens, and Chanel Torres. Stand Up for Idaho has invited all the candidates to participate in a forum where they will each tell why we should vote for them, followed by a question and answer period where the audience can ask the candidates questions. The following candidates have confirmed their attendance. In person, Maxine Durant. Via Zoom, Jill C. Kirkham and Terry Pickens. Chanel Torres has not confirmed her participation. So don't miss this town hall. This is the only forum in the state where most of the Democratic gubernatorial candidates will appear together. Attendance is free, but donations are greatly appreciated. Stand Up for Idaho's weekly town hall, Wednesday, April 22nd. Snake River Event Center, Shiloh Inn, 780 Lindsay University Boulevard, Idaho Falls, 6:30 p.m.
For years, Timberline Home has been a trusted regional furniture destination. Now the time has come to prepare for something new and exciting. That means one final massive sale to clear the way for this transformation. Almost everything on their showroom floor and in their warehouse is priced to move with savings up to 50% off. Shop for fine leather furniture, dining sets, sofas, love seats, bedroom groups, mattresses, recliners, tables, and accents from the quality brands you have come to expect at Timberline Home. Plus, take an additional 25% off all custom orders, along with 0% financing OAC. Quantities are limited, and once these pieces are gone, they're gone. Huge savings for you as Timberline clears the way for the next chapter in luxury furniture shopping in Idaho Falls. This is your last opportunity to shop Timberline Home as you know it. Timberline Home, 711 East Anderson in Idaho Falls.
We're in studio with Devin from Rev Motorsports, and he's got a smile on his face like he just got back from a spirit spa day or something.
Not exactly. This was what we in the motorsports business like to call throttle therapy.
Is that like the opposite of a lavender bath bomb?
This is more like a two-stroke scented bath bomb, guaranteed to clear your head and get some adrenaline pumping through your veins.
Side effects include?
Well, for me it was like soreness the next day because I didn't get enough throttle therapy last summer, but I'm not going to make that mistake this year.
I think pretty much everybody can relate to needing to get out more and break away from the normal routine.
Absolutely, and spring came early, so we've got months ahead of us for some throttle therapy on our calendars. So pull the tarps off your trailers and bikes and side-by-sides and get out there. And hey, if you need a new machine or if you need parts, service, or accessories, we'll take care of you.
Go see him at Rev Motorsports there in Utah, in Island Park, and of course right here in Idaho Falls.
Rev Motorsports, rev up your life.
When you live in southeast Idaho, your windows do a lot more than let light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for our local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year long. And installation? It's done by our very own certified in-house crews. That's why Idaho homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Call 208-852-8685. For over 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Idaho trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products. Built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 208-852-8685 for that $2,500 off or visit advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
Local election coverage happens here. The News Talk 1079 Legislative Debate Series, moderated by Neil Larson and Julie Mason, only on News Talk 1079.
You know, Representative Furniss, I don't know if insulting the moderator is your best approach here today, but at any rate.
Everyone missed that.
Yeah, I know they did.
It was all in good fun.
Welcome back here on News Talk 1079. Neil Larson, Julie Mason, and this is debate number 2. Last week we had Aaron Bingham and Brian McKellar. This week we have Rod Furniss and Karey Hanks. Next week we actually have a 2 for Julie, which is going to be good.
We do. We have a Wednesday and a Thursday. On Wednesday it'll be Representative Stephanie Mickelson with her opponent Kelly Golden, and then on Thursday it will be Representative Barb Ehart with her opponent Connor Cook.
And a lot of candidate interviews scattered in between. So.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to shift to spending now. Representative Furniss, you sit on JFAC. Fiscal year spending for 2027 is over $14 billion. That's a modest increase of 2.5%. Health and welfare added $527 million alone. According to the Mountain States Policy Center, over the last decade or so, state spending has increased 95%, nearly double, while the population increased only 24%. Yet many of your moderate Republican colleagues and Democrats blamed the previous tax reductions for not having the revenue you would have liked. As a lawmaker, do you believe we aren't taxing Idahoans enough, or do you believe we're spending too much?
I think we could, probably a little of both, honestly. House Bill 40 last year, when we passed that, We reduced the income tax rate. We gave veterans pension-free benefits. We saved $450 million in taxes at that time, and we thought that was the cat's meow. We thought we're in good shape. President Trump didn't call me and tell me he was going to do the big, beautiful bill. So that kind of put us in a little bit of a turmoil. That was another $155 million on top of that. And that's where the budget crunch came from. But, we did a great job. We have $880 million in our savings accounts. We didn't touch that. And I was an advocate for touching that. I mean, I'm an old banker, so I thought, and I had LSO, Legislative Service Offices, do an analysis. If we took $100 million out of our savings account, could we pay that back, and how long would it take us to pay that back? Based on current sales tax projections and income tax projections, we would have paid that back in 1 year. So I'm telling you that Idaho is doing really well. When we lower tax rates, I believe in Reaganomics, we're going to have more income coming in, and we will. So this year it's a cash flow problem. It's a typical banker cash flow problem. Next year, our cash flow looks really good. And part of the problem in the big, beautiful bill was a depreciation element where they could take, all the companies could take their depreciation or it's called their, research and development costs. They could take those all up front, and they took those. And so that caused us, even our corporate income tax went way down. So basically, I think we have a revenue problem temporarily. We have a spending problem. We did cut, we cut 4%, we cut 5% out of 2027, and those will maybe come back, but we did some good jobs there.
Okay, so answer a question then. I've heard the word cut come from you several times today, but yet overall, the budget went up 2.5% to over $14 billion. So how do you say it's been cut when actually we're spending more?
So let me address that. Federal funds went up mostly. State funds did not go up. Okay. So there's a difference. You have to look at the state portion and the federal portion, and you also have to look at dedicated funds. That's all in that mix in that $14 million. A lot of the dedicated funds are self-imposed taxes on organizations that don't go through our budgeting process. We budget for the state revenue only, and that we actually were dead flat this year based on everything that we did. We had a 0% increase.
Okay.
All right. So, Karey, you have served in the legislature. So you've been a part of this. You weren't there this last legislative session. Based upon the question that Neil asked, what would you have cut? If you had been able to put yourself in proxy lawmaker, where do you think we should not increase spending in the state of Idaho?
Well, not being there, it is difficult because I know DOJ did a lot of recommendations, and I probably would have gone for some of those. Our budget mess has been building up the last 5 years since we passed, I didn't vote for it, but we passed ARPA, Idaho. It's the American Rescue Plan Act. It was Biden's idea to shove $2 billion into our state budget, and then about $2 billion into capital projects, all that kind of stuff for our companies for counties and cities. And I want to just read to you a big reason I voted against ARPA, other than we're taking more and more from the federal government, is this is right in the bill that passed. ARPA funds are borrowed from our grandchildren. To the extent allowable under law, the state should make long-range investments with ARPA funds that will benefit our grandchildren. I could not vote. I committed that I was not going to vote for anything with ARPA in it, because how can I put my grandchildren and yours into debt for years to come? And so it put supposedly one-time funding into our budgets, but once you put something into a budget, it's really hard to take it back out. So I think that was a big thing. Also with Medicaid expansion, it's interesting that a majority of Fremont and Jefferson voters said no to that in 2018. But Rod voted for that, And so I feel that he did not represent his constituents then. So that's a big thing, though, is Medicaid expansion. All that money, it's a 90-10 split, but it actually takes away from the current Medicaid that we have for our children, for the disabled, for the truly needy.
Yeah. Rod, you were brought up. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how she knows how I voted. Nobody looked at my ballot, I hope. So, anyway, you know, on ARPA money, it's incredible to know that that I can tell you that we did the budgeting on ARPA. It was like a pig going through a python. That a big chunk of money just came through that. And we worked really hard to make sure that it was one-time money so that it wasn't ongoing money. We didn't hire new employees with ARPA money. We did bridges, roads, things that require one-time money. So if our grandchildren have to pay this back, at least they'll be able to drive on good roads, cross bridges that won't fall in, and have the benefits. Oh, we did a ton of money with Parks and Rec as well. We increased those. But the problem with not accepting ARPA money is it didn't go back to reduce the federal debt, and our income tax rate didn't go down if we would have not taken the ARPA money. In fact, the money would have went back to California or to Chicago or to Maryland. So we didn't have much choice whether to take it. We did have a choice how to spend it. We did a great job of making sure that it was one-time money, not ongoing money.
Okay.
Clarify.
Really quick,
Yeah,
yes.
well,
and then we have to
he
take a break.
Spoke about me not knowing how he voted. Let me clarify. In the legislature that year, they could have repealed that ballot initiative for Medicaid expansion that he voted.
And went against 61% of the people that voted for it.
But not in our district.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll take a break. We'll come back. And we'll continue after this on News Talk 1079.
Local election coverage happens here. The News Talk 1079 Legislative Debate Series, moderated by Neil Larson and Julie Mason, only on News Talk 1079.
You've traveled, tackled projects, played hard, and your joints can tell. But pain shouldn't stand in the way of doing what you love. At Summit Orthopedics, they provide advanced orthopedic care from experienced physicians, including diagnosis and recovery from back and neck pain, shoulder and knee injuries, wrists and ankles, and all the joints in between. They want you to get back to enjoying your favorite activities, pain-free. To schedule your appointment, visit summitortho.net. Summit Orthopedics, for all things orthopedics.
When you live in Southeast Idaho, your windows do a lot more than let light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for our local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year long. And installation, it's done by our very own certified in-house crews. That's why Idaho homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Call 208-852-8685. For over 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Idaho trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products, built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 208-852-8685 for that $2,500 off, or visit advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
It's the anniversary sale going on at Sunnyside Gardens. 39 years of serving Southeast Idaho gardeners. Right now, Sunnyside Gardens brand fertilizer blended for our local soils, $5 off. Their brand bag potting soil is 20% off. Pansies and violas for spring color are 25% off. 10% off all fruit trees. So come take a stroll through their warm greenhouses and experience spring. Certified nursery professionals available to answer all your questions. Live life in color at Sunnyside Gardens, 3240 Sunnyside Road at Ammon.
Local election coverage happens here. The News Talk 1079 Legislative Debate Series, moderated by Neil Larson and Julie Mason, only on News Talk 1079.
And we welcome you back to our debate this morning with Neil Larson and Julie Mason. You look like you have a question, Julie.
Well, I think we do need to, when we formulated these questions, we know that some questions are tougher on some candidates than others because some are currently serving. I do have a pretty tough one for you, Karey. It's about the IFF alignment, and you typically have a 100% or close to it Freedom Index score from the Idaho Freedom Foundation. And your opponent amplifies that fact in his campaign messaging. He lets people know that that's where you stand. And many are hesitant to vote for you because they believe you're too closely aligned with the Idaho Freedom Foundation. So do you believe the IFF has been an effective legislative organization? That's the first one. And right now they call IFF aligned lawmakers the Gang of Eight. So the second question is, will you affiliate with that gang?
Okay. I believe that it has been an effective organization. I will not be aligning with the Gang of Eight. I would like to say that when I was elected in 2016, I was a true citizen legislator, and there was a lot to process and learn, as Aaron Bingham has found out. So I used analysis from several entities and organizations, other legislators as well, the hearings that were held, and from my constituents. I thought that was important. And there's many groups. There's scorecards, including IACI. And IACI is a big business, big pharma, special interest, actually a conglomeration of lobbyist groups with the lobbyists want to use taxpayer money for their piggy banks. And, it's interesting that, speaking of scores, Rod had 100% just recently on his IACI score, and he's 73% this year, which is one of the higher scores. He fixates on my IFF score to distract from his voting record for special interests. And I will always defend real conservatives. I live in a conservative district, and I am a conservative, and that's how I voted, and that's how I will serve the people of District 31.
All right, she mentioned you, Rod, so you can respond.
Oh, thank you. The freedom score is a big deal. If you get a 100% freedom score, you don't have to read the bills. You just have to see what they tell you, do what they tell you. And I sit in front of the Gang of Eight. I watch them. They have the Freedom Foundation rebuttal stuff up in front on their computers during the session. If you vote Karey Hanks, you will have the Gang of Nine, guaranteed.
Okay.
Hey, he's mentioned me. I absolutely have already committed to many of my constituents who have asked. I'm not joining the Gang of Eight. Not joining the other caucus. I will join the Republican caucus because we meet together. So I'm committing now for that. And people I know, people that know me, know that I do read the bills, that I will represent the people, the citizens.
Okay, we are time limited here, okay. But I want to ask Rod, I guess we'll see if it's a hard question or not. But Rod, near the end of the session, maybe a month and a half ago, I personally was curious to see how closely lawmakers voted with the majority in their party when there were split majority votes, meaning when Democrat majorities voted one way and Republicans voted another way. There were 105 votes that met that criteria. You voted with the Republican Party about 75% of the time, 75% of the time. Yet you campaign as a solid conservative, a fiscal conservative, but a lot of people would look at 75% and they would say, that's not a reliable Republican vote. They may not expect 100. I don't think anybody expects 100. 75% is probably lower than a lot of people who think of reliable conservatives would like to see.
Well, I'd like to see your numbers, but and I probably dispute your methodology a little bit. And I know I'm attacking the host.
No, that's fine.
But let me tell you some stats that I have. I took 230. There were 237 votes that were unanimous. 49% of the votes were absolutely unanimous. At least 51% of the vote left. Yep. Right. My data shows that I voted with the minority 41 times. on the remaining votes, that's 8% of the time I voted with Democrats. So the numbers are a little bit skewed. And the bills I voted on, I'll stand behind them, and they were good bills. And I don't even know if they passed or not. I just know that I voted with a minority on those. But I'm not opposed to going across the aisle. I reach across the aisle all the time. The other day, when I did the bill on the health insurance for schools to come into the statewide insurance pool, I went to the Democrat caucus and I asked them if I could come in and present because it was a really complicated bill. I went in there, I presented, I showed them how the bill worked. When I got done, they said, "Rod, you're the first guy that's come into our caucus in 4 years to show us what a Republican bill would look like." And I think, we need to reach across the aisle more. Whether I vote or not, I'll stand behind those votes, and I'll be happy to explain any of those votes. But when you have 49% that's unanimous and 41% I voted with the minority, that's 8%.
Yeah. Okay. Karey, really quick.
So he said he actually did admit that he votes with Democrats, which is interesting. And he and Raymond actually canceled each other out 22 times this session. And it's interesting that was one of his complaints about me when we served together. So it does happen.
She mentioned my name, I just respond. We canceled each other out 200 times in 2022. 200 votes we canceled out.
Okay. But yet you had a problem with her doing that when she was in?
Yeah, 200 times.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah, you want me to go through the list?
No, it's all right. We don't have that kind of time.
Well, it's important that people do.
Okay. All right. Let's shift into the AI gotchas, Julie. Should we? Yeah. You want me to ask?
Yeah, go, because I don't have my glasses on, old 53 women eyes.
Okay. Representative Furniss, and this is the prompt that I gave AI. If you were a solid conservative, what is the hardest question you'd ask candidate Rod Furniss and Karey Hanks in this legislative race? What gotcha questions would you throw at them?
Oh, great.
All right. So this is what ChatGPT would ask you, Representative Furniss.
All right.
You campaign as a reliable conservative, but can you point to a specific vote this session where you took political heat from leadership or your own party to defend a core conservative principle like limited government, fiscal restraint, or individual liberty? And if not, why should voters see you as more than just a consistent yes vote for the establishment?
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually liked that on House Bill 1300, Senate Bill 1300, where they came in. I was in the minority. I lost this vote. I debated vehemently against Senate Bill 1300. Senate Bill 1300 was the one that gave the governor more executive power by choosing the directors in Park and Rec, in transportation, and in fish and game. I can't believe the Republicans gave more executive power to that. And collateral damage was the Park and Recs, which included Harriman State Park. By changing the way the directors choose the board for the park chooses the director by having it appointed by the governor, we're at risk of losing Harriman State Park. And I voted against the Republican Party. I voted for my constituents, and I would do it again tomorrow. And my opponent was silent on this issue.
All right, Karey, you were mentioned. Take 20 seconds, and then Julie will ask you your time.
Okay, I was not silent on that. I actually contacted legislators. I got on Facebook and was promoting people contacting legislators and our governor later. But I have been assured by our AG, Labrador, that he believes that the lease is still good, intact. And so I'm trusting in that.
Okay. All right, Karey, your gotcha question. Okay. Karey, you're running as a conservative alternative, but can you name a specific policy position where you would vote against the Republican majority or push back on your own party if it conflicted with your principles? And if you can't, how are you meaningfully different from the incumbent you're trying to replace?
Wow. Well, I guess, like, as he says, 1300, I would have not supported that change. Also, there was 1352 that passed, and Rod actually voted for it. And it was to basically get P&Z, our planning and zoning, out of these planning our subdivisions, and it shrinks the size of subdivisions. I oppose that. I think we, as Republicans, we talk about local control. There's also the short-term rental issue, and I just believe, as a Republican, we need local control. So those are issues that I...
Okay, we have exactly about 2 minutes left, so we're going to shift into your closing. Rod, we'll let you give your 1 minute close.
I want to ask her a question.
Oh, yes, okay.
We can do that.
Go ahead. Ask her a question, then back.
I'm sorry to take over your show.
No, you're great. This is what we agreed to do, so let's do it.
When we're in Boise, we have a privilege to bring many issues affecting our district to LSO, and they will see where the issue is in Idaho, and what LSO looks for that statute. They find out where that problem is, and to accommodate a request. We can change the law in LSO. We can make it more fair or burdensome. And when those ideas are presented, the committees, you take that idea to the committee, you take it to the floor, both chambers. Hopefully the governor signs that idea. It's always a major accomplishment when that happens, when you get a bill all the way through. Karey, what have you accomplished during your 4 years you were in the legislature?
Okay, I actually had a bill to stop mask mandates. I opposed the COVID and mask mandates, and I supported opening our sports and our schools. I voted to get rid of CRT and indoctrination. I served on the Ag Committee and supported those bills. I sponsored and co-sponsored Second Amendment bills. I opposed ARPA and Medicaid expansion. I fought the ranked choice voting initiative, and I support current transparent budget process where it's maintenance versus enhancement, where he actually helped stage a coup against that a couple of years ago when Wendy Horman was not there. And so I'm glad that he's now working with the maintenance versus enhancement.
She did mention me. Just so you know, she didn't pass a bill the whole 4 years she was there, all the way through. I passed 90 bills. If you want something done, I'm your guy.
Okay, Karey, go ahead and ask him a question.
Okay. So, Rod, you voted for taxpayer-funded feminine hygiene products for school restrooms. You voted to lower the threshold for passing bonds, making it easier to raise property taxes, and you voted to continue giving welfare to illegals. In your literature and forums, you call yourself a conservative. Please share with the listeners how those votes are A, conservative, and B, reflect the values of our district.
Well, you might have to repeat some of those, but the feminine hygiene products, I'd bring that back tomorrow. It was a 50-50 vote. We buy toilet paper, we buy paper towels. I believe we should have feminine hygiene products in the schools. The teachers are buying those products for those students on their own dime. In a lot of the schools, it's not funded. This was a $300,000 spend to give feminine hygiene products in the schools. Currently, we have people donating those products, but if those donors ever quit, those girls won't have it. I have 4 daughters. I'd do that bill over again in a heartbeat. That is a conservative effort to make sure women have dignity in the bathrooms.
Okay.
Right there.
All right. Let's 1 minute closing. Try to make it 45 seconds. You got a minute. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Karey.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm grateful, Neil and Julie, for the opportunity for this debate forum. I'll speak fast. Your listeners have heard 2 different types of Republicans here today. My opponent displays a pattern of backing by special interests, voting the way they want him to, welfare for illegals, lowering the threshold for raising property taxes, and growing our state budget by over 40%. By contrast, I'm a traditional conservative Republican. As such, my values and votes are more closely aligned with those of our district. I would never vote to give welfare to illegals, to fund feminine hygiene products in boys' or girls' restrooms, or make it easier for the government to raise people's taxes. I'm proud of my conservative record during my 2 terms in the House. I wasn't beholden to any special interest group. I wasn't chasing a score. I simply voted in line with the values of this community, which is conservative. We know that ultimately it's up to your listeners, the voters in District 31, to decide which one of us best reflects their values and will earn their votes. So again, I'm very happy to be here to share with your listeners and help them to make an informed decision on who better reflects their values. Thank you.
Rod, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. She does have a 100% freedom score. That's not my values. That's not most of our values. There was an article in USA Today. I think it amplifies my closing. When you strip away the political rhetoric, the race becomes a study of biology. Rod Furniss leans heavily into his identity as a sixth-generation Idahoan. His family history is etched in the land of homesteading in Manan area in the late 1800s. This isn't just flavor text. It's a rural district. This pedigree is a form of political currency. It suggests a deep ancestral tie to the soil in the community. His professional background reinforces the budget writer persona. With degrees in finance from BYU and ISU, a career spanning banking and insurance since 1986, Furniss presents himself as the adult in the room when it comes to the state ledger. He has served as a local and state president of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, has led a local education foundation. His professional trajectory explains why he is comfortable with the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee. He speaks the language of a spreadsheet. But the so what for the average voter in Lemhi and Jefferson County comes down to the tension between these two profiles. Do they want a representative who can navigate the complex machinery of the Idaho legislature to ensure their district gets its share of resources, or do they want a representative who is willing to burn the budget down if it contains a single enhancement they find objectable? Vote Rod Furniss.
Okay, we will leave it at that, and we are down to the last 20 seconds. I want to thank both of you, Representative Furniss, former Representative Hanks. We wish you luck in the next, well, not quite 4 weeks. So
Very spirited. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Julie and I will be back tomorrow right here on News Talk 107.9.